Hey there, it's Coach Kyle here. Before we jump into this episode, we're doing a special promo for anyone who's looking to gain lean muscle without putting on any fat. This is something we specialize in and something a lot of people are asking us to help them with, especially during the winter season as things start to change and a lot of people want to just simply gain muscle and feel their absolute best there. So we're looking to take on 5 people at a discounted rate to join us for this special case study, get you guaranteed results, and help you feel your absolute best. As they say, summer bodies are made in the winter, so now is time to take action. Send us a message with the keyword lean gains to our Instagram, which is Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. We can't wait to help you. Now into the episode.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and Most of All Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
And we got an incredible episode planned for you. This is Motivation Monday. I messed up. We recorded over 15 minutes of an episode before this, and I realized I didn't have my microphone fully plugged in, but we believe how you do anything is how you do everything, and we really want this episode to be as great as it can be because our mission is to help you become the fittest, healthiest, and happiest version of yourself. So really just sit back, relax. We got an incredible episode planned for you. Actually, before we jump into it, now that it comes to mind, Spotify Wrapped is here. So if you listen to our podcast on Spotify, I'm not sure if Apple is doing this, we are looking for our biggest fan. So in the Wrapped, it'll usually tell you how many minutes you listened, what percentage of listeners you're in, all these great things. And we're actually looking for the biggest fan. So if you get any metrics that come from that, how many episodes you listen to, whatever it may be, share it to your story and tag us. We would love to see it. It really makes our day. Our Instagram's at Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. We'd love to reshare some of those, and we're going to be giving a prize to whoever the biggest fan is. So we're really curious. We might already know who you are. If not, we're excited to meet you. But into an incredible episode, and we're going to kick it off with our primary question, which is, I'm wondering what the best workout is for fat loss. I always see mixed opinions on bodybuilding, CrossFit, powerlifting, etc., and I am not sure which approach to take.
So my first initial answer here might surprise some people, but the answer I have here is whatever workout you're going to consistently do. So I know so many people get into the weeds and confused and they try to follow what their favorite influencer does and they just really overcomplicate it for no reason. Even maybe some of your friends joined this local class and they say, hey, you got to do it. But if you don't show up and you're not going there and you're not pushing yourself, you're never going to do it. So that's where it is hard and sometimes I guess a bit difficult because there's always what's going to be most optimal and the best way to progress and see change and all that great stuff. But if you just have the most perfect routine, but then you never go, that's not going to be what's best for you. Whereas if you go 3 to 5 times a week and it may not be as perfect, that's probably going to be better. So a lot of it comes down to each situation and each person. There is obviously the best way to do it in my opinion, which is going to be overall strength training, progressive overload, all that great stuff. But if you can just get in there and move your body and push yourself as best as possible consistently, that's going to be what's best for you. And it's a bonus if you do enjoy it as well, because, that's going to kind of help you get in there as well. So that's going to be the first thing that I wanted to mention as the top tip there.
I love this answer because it's so easy to get hyper fixated on the best. What is the best? How can I eat only the best food? But if you're so fixated on that and you're going to Whole Foods, spending your whole budget, and then at the end of the day, you're still going over your calories, you're drinking excessively, you're eating out excessively, you're going to lose to that person who's doing even maybe 50% or portioning out even garbage food. They're going to have a better physique. It's just the reality of it. And I love the example of finance and investing. People always say, what's the best way to invest my money? How can I get the highest return? This and that. But who ultimately is going to win is that person that just consistently does what they can, they work within their means, and they just stick to that game plan over that person who has a massive return once but has horrible habits and ends up in extreme debt. And very much working out and fitness and health is the same. And like Kyle said, every type of working out has its benefits. In general, we're not big fans of classes such as CrossFit, F45, Orange Theory, just to name a few. Not because they're inherently horrible or anything like that, but just because they do lack that individualized component where you can kind of hide in the group. You can use lighter weights. It's going to be more cardio centered than it will be strength training, where you can actually advance and develop your muscles. So there are hesitations with that. Saying so, if you're someone who's tried weight training before, when you get in there, you get scared, you go right to the treadmills and you never do it, and you discover an F45 and you can do that consistently, that will be better than doing nothing or doing the cardio. And it's just honest to do that. And I'd still recommend working up the confidence to do the utmost best thing, which is being on the most optimal routine for you. But I really, really love Kyle's point about what you will do the most consistently. And I think you'll have seasons of life. There's seasons where I powerlifted. There's seasons where I bodybuilded, I guess it's not really a word. Kyle trained for a marathon. We've had so many different fun pockets of training, and you can all embrace them for what they are. But ultimately, what I want to add on to this question is that there is no best workout for fat loss inherently. If your mindset is, how can I work out to lose fat, which most people's is, generally you'll see them go right to the treadmills, the Stairmaster, whatever it may be, and they'll go burn a bunch of calories. It's very hard to burn a sizable amount of calories. For instance, if I told you to burn 1,000 calories on doing cardio, it would be exceptionally hard. It'd be quite difficult. Whereas if I told you to eat 1,000 calories, you'd go order number 3 from your local fast food chain, and you'd be right there, and you wouldn't think twice about it, and you'd be hungry 20 minutes later. And that's where that mindset of I'm just going to burn off this fat isn't productive. And Kyle had a great point too. That thing you had mentioned about the person who will be burning versus the person who will just be not eating.
Yeah, so basically it was like there's while you're out there trying to burn off 500 calories, there's going to be someone else just deciding not to eat it. I think that's just a very great point, because it's like there are so many people there just looking at their watch, just thinking I'm going to burn. And then there's someone else out there who just has self-discipline, who's just like, you know what? I don't need that thing. And not that that thing could be bad for you, but it's that thing that could take you out of that deficit and help you, unfortunately, not see progress, or I guess hurt you from seeing progress.
Yeah, and being realistic with that. At nighttime, I can easily just sit down and start eating something like crazy, 800,000 calories. And if that puts me in a surplus, it isn't going to matter how many calories I burned. If I'm eating more than I had, I'm going to ultimately end up with some extra fat. Of course, strength training will help you add on muscle, which can actually help you look better, even if you do have a degree of fat. But that's where I really would take this into consideration. However, also, if you were saying, hey, what's the most efficient way to burn calories? You are going to burn a lot of calories from like a CrossFit type workout, where you're really mixing a hybrid of sprints, intense movements. It's very HIIT focused. The draw of that is you're going to lose a lot of your ability to lift really heavy, because you're not going to be really rested. Whereas powerlifting isn't going to be overly intensive in terms of a consistent manner. It's going to be really short bursts of really heavy lifts, but you're going to burn a lot of calories in those lifts. And that's where you kind of want to find this middle ground, because both can be quite taxing as well. Both can have their hesitations, but that's where just in general, normal strength training, you're doing 3 by however many reps, you're taking adequate rest, how you're feeling recovered. You're going to get a lot of merit from this, and it's really going to help you progress within that fat loss journey.
Yeah, and like when it does come to the most optimal, if someone's sitting in front of me, they're like, I'm ready to dial in, my nutrition's good, I'm going to try to focus on that, and we're going to take care of that, because nutrition is obviously a massive piece of the puzzle a lot of people miss out on. When I have someone in front of me like that, I'm going to program them a customized workout 3 to 5 times per week based off of past workout injuries, how much time they have in the gym, the stuff that they have available, the time, did I say the time frame that they have as well? That's going to be one thing. So I'm going to sit there and put something together that's going to be fully strength training based. We're not going to be doing jumping up and down in between sets. We're not going to be doing metabolic conditioning. And then we'll also have a bit of a protocol for cardio on the side. That could be the Stairmaster if you want. That could be walks. You don't have to do anything crazy, but the nutrition being dialed in, the strength training program for you, combined with a little bit of cardio, you could get away without doing cardio if your nutrition's good and you're in a solid deficit, but that's going to be the most perfect puzzle piece. And some people might be mind blown because they're like, wait, that's all I have to do? Because they really do try to overcomplicate it and make it more challenging than it needs to be. But that would be like the most optimal, perfect thing. And if you don't enjoy it, like, try to find a way to, whether it's like a workout buddy, whether it's, being so laser focused on your goals and rewarding yourself when you get there. Like there's some days like people would look at me and be like, oh, you must love strength training. Like I did not enjoy getting under the bar today, doing my squats. There's a lot of days where I'm like, I'd rather actually not be doing it, but I just do it anyway. So that's another story for another day, but that would be the most optimal thing for fat loss. But really, really dial in your nutrition and you'll be in a really good spot for sure.
Yeah, it's super easy to think in terms of addition, adding. How can I do more cardio? I'm going to do an hour of cardio. I'm going to do my workout. But eventually this will take away energy from you, and this can actually draw. If I'm doing excessive cardio, my workouts are going to suffer and my physique's going to suffer, and I'm ultimately going to be in a worse spot. When I feel more lethargic and dead at the end of the night, my willpower will be that much more down, and maybe I'll break that diet. And I've actually been my leanest doing like little to no cardio outside of walking because I like walking and I find it's quite good. And that's where you need to be aware. Like if you wanted to burn the most amount of fat possible, like I'd probably make your routine saying you do heavy barbell squats right into heavy deadlifts, take a 10-second break, sprint a lap, take a 10-second break, sprint again, do 50 burpees, like something just absolutely insane, but it would kill you. You wouldn't be able to finish it. You'd be absolutely crippled and you'd have no energy. And that's where like the drawback of programming and training smarter is so important. I don't want to go too heavy into this because I filmed the whole YouTube video on how to actually train smarter and get more from your workouts. And it answers this question in a better way, I suppose. That will be out on our YouTube Wednesday. Our YouTube is Colossus Fit. Once this comes out in the future, I'll add it to the show notes anyway. So if you're listening to this past the release date, you will be able to check that out. But it's something I believe in, and just in a few principles from that video, I guess, so I'm not just leaving you curious, is goal first training. If your goal is to be a marathoner, focus on what you need to do, which is running and really leaning into the cardio side of things. That's where you'll have the advantage. If your goal is to be as strong as possible, lean into those really heavy movements. For instance, powerlifting, like that's what your goal is. If your goal is to be a bodybuilder, do slow negatives. Like when you focus with goal-based training and you avoid the noise of, yes, it's fun to do muscle ups. Yes, it's fun to do these cool CrossFit little workouts, but it isn't ultimately going to help you. Then past that, I would say just not doing the easy and fun things, but doing what you know will actually move you towards your goal. You're going to get a lot more from a barbell squat than you will from doing the adductor machine. Once again, they both have their place and we could get super, super deep with this, but I do just want to answer the question on a general level. So ultimately, I think you'll get the most merit, especially in terms of physique development, from just basic hypertrophy training. It's going to do a lot for you being on top of your nutrition and being aware of your protein.
Yeah, very well said. And that was a great question. And we're excited. Like we have so many more things to say, but we have a lot more to cover here. So yeah, that was a great question and hopefully some great answers to help you out.
All right, we're going to jump into the quotes and we'll start with Alfredo.
Yes, my quote for today. This is something I'm passionate about. It is a lot of people feel they're burned out because they're doing too much. I say people are burned out because they're doing too little of the things that make them feel alive. So I really challenge you, like grab a pen and paper. Josh has been journaling this week, sending it to me, and it's been cool to see because it's a good reminder. I need to get back to doing that even more often. But I think it's easy to kind of forget about the things that you enjoy, especially when life does get busy, especially if you have a lot going on. Maybe you are always taking care of those around you and, work gets busy. Like it is very easy to just like forget about that and the things that bring you alive. And I think a lot of times people do mistake, they make a mistake of kind of, I guess you could say not realizing, like they might feel overwhelmed, they might feel burnt out, they might feel tired and all that stuff, but it's just they haven't been doing anything that excites them at all. And I feel that way as well. Like the times where I don't do those things that I'm really passionate about, if I were to take a break from filming content or helping others, like I would probably feel burnt out because that's what inspires me. That's what brings me alive. Even the fun things that we do, we're always doing sports, we're always doing great stuff. Like I know that that's what brings me up. I feel so much better when I do it. When I play beach volleyball, when I go rock climbing, when I do something that's active and fulfilling, it just like, even if I had the busiest schedule in the world, I would still feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Alive, because I've been doing it. And that's something that a lot of people may make a mistake on. So as we're going into the season of seasonal depression, of cold weather, of, just some tougher times and whatnot, think about what excites you and start planning that into your calendar and taking action on it.
Yeah, I've shared previously how there was a YouTuber I really liked, and he had a shirt that just said, be alive and really live. And I thought that was a great example. Like the difference between like being present, being passionate versus just going through the motions on anything. So I love this too. And like I've used the example before, when you have a schedule where you're just running around, but you feel so good and so fresh because it's things you like, you're moving towards your purpose, you're helping others. It's way more inspiring than when you're just sitting around, and that can ultimately be a pretty bad feeling. So I think that is an awesome quote. My quote's nice and simple, and it is calm the stomach, move the body, rest the mind. And it's quite simple, but lately I've just been thinking, how can I move to the basics? How can I be inspired from the basics? It's easy to be really pumped up from all of these exotic things and exotic ideas. But as you go to these basics, it just something to think of. If you're calming the stomach, you're eating the best foods, you're eating foods that feel good for you, you're having a lot of vegetables, a lot of fiber, a lot of protein. It it's a great feeling. Whereas when you eat something really bad, like, I don't know, usually I feel like Taco Bell just never sits right in your stomach, whatever it is. Moving the body, any form of exercise, it just feels amazing. As Kyle had mentioned, volleyball, rock climbing, like doing different things like that is absolutely amazing. And resting the mind, taking some time to actually be present, to calm yourself, to journal, to meditate. So really just going back to those basics.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I was looking through some quotes today to get some good ideas. Like we had an episode in the past of our favorite quotes, like probably around 300 or so. And I was looking through that and I saw the quote that said, the most advanced thing you can do are the basics consistently. And I thought that was such a great reminder because, yeah, we always talk about it, but it's like the amount of people who are like, they have the basics in front of them of like really good stuff that they should be doing. And they sit there and they think, how can I not do the basics and find that new and exciting thing that like, it doesn't end up working. So yeah, that was a great quote. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I guess just for my two fun thoughts, I always get confused on the dates, but I actually really thought it through. So it's cool that I've been lifting for 14 years now, and that kind of inspired me, obviously, to make that YouTube video about how to lift smarter, because I've also lifted pretty dumb early on in my journey, and it's been great helping people transform. And with coaching, we've now been coaching 9 years, which is incredible. So a lot of people say, hey, did you just start doing this for COVID? But this is something we were so passionate about. And even I was looking through some of my old journals and my notes and what inspires me. And it's always been helping people with their transformations, helping people who are struggling when I don't believe they need to struggle. Because to me, fitness is easy. This is what I specialize in. Same with Kyle. Like this, to us, these problems that may seem absolutely like monumental in your head, like they're a massive mountain, to us, we're like, oh, do this, this, and this. And that's what's so great about working with a professional. And it's great too, even having been in the business this long, because it was a lot harder at first when I'm like, hey, I'm doing this online coaching thing. And people will be like, hey, have you worked with anyone? I'm like, no, but I'm going to do a great job. So it's been absolutely great, like seeing that grow. And now achieving the milestone of over 4,500 transformations is absolutely bizarre. And it's great knowing there was 45 people who are struggling, who are now, they have their success story, they have their physique, they've done what perhaps they didn't know was possible. So once again, like Kyle said, there's a great opportunity to message just lean games and for you to become that next person, because why put it off? Why put it off anymore? So those are my thoughts for today.
Yeah, and that's something that definitely makes me feel alive, keeping note of that, like working off of my quote there. It's just, as I spend time reflecting, it's always just like, when do I feel the most overwhelmed? Like, when do I feel the most fulfilled? And a lot of it comes down to just like showing up for every single one of you guys. Like, we were speaking to someone recently and I was saying that no matter what I'm going through, no matter what's happening, like it would feel like a disservice to not show up for the podcast, for our clients, for the Instagram community. And, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be able to just consistently show up on the microphone, I guess, on the camera for YouTube, on Instagram, on my phone, and, obviously for my clients as well, just through the apps that we communicate with. But yeah, so simply put, I saw two things that I really liked. So one of them was want better mornings. And then there were two things. It said replace screen time with sunlight and then replace scrolling with movement. So two things that obviously involve us kind of not being on our phone first thing in the morning and trying to get out there for some sunlight and movement. I saw that and I kind of liked it. I was like, oh, that's a good reminder there. And then I was listening to a podcast today, and the gentleman said, if a book sucks by chapter 1 or 2, stop reading it. If it's incredible, read it twice and read it once a year after that. So he was saying that there's some books that he's read 15 plus times, and I think it's easy to kind of like always be looking for that next thing, which there are a lot of incredible books, but there's so many different times in our life where I feel like it can apply in a different way. And even myself, I'm trying to get better at like rereading books. Josh has given me some great examples of books and I've started to like reread them more. And I feel like it's just been so much, I guess you could say, better than trying to find like a different one that maybe doesn't apply as much, or that like, it's just, the point is that if there's a good book, like don't just say, oh, I've read it before, like, and never read it again. Like it is definitely powerful to go through it again because you could be at a different part of your life. And at the same time as well, like I've definitely read books where like it was just, I just want to say that I did it and just like check it off. But I'm like, you know what? Like there's no point in just trying to suffer through this. So it's kind of a good reminder. Like I'm not someone who likes quitting, but there's definitely a time where it's like, you know what? This is what makes the most sense here. And that's just a random thought I have for today.
Now we're going to jump into our client shout out. Who do we have?
So we have myself. Yeah, just
Tune your own horn.
I guess I am, but I'm pretty pumped. Like I haven't shared an updated transformation in a while. I've gone through a nice bulk phase where I've basically just decided to go all in on trying to accomplish my goals. A lot of them strength training based, but then it kind of carries over. The more muscle I gain, the more weight that I gain, it will help me out with what I need to do. And I'm pretty happy with it, gaining over 10 pounds of muscle. I think it was closer to 11 pounds in about 4.5 months, which I'm super pumped because I started training a lot harder. I've been increasing my calories, doing the best I can with protein. And yeah, you'll see the transformation there on Monday with some tips, as well as I'll show you a bit of the DEXA scan snippet from like the last DEXA scan I had into this one here as well. So I'm proud of myself. You know, you got to give yourself credit where credit's due. So that's going to be our client shout out.
Yeah, and I actually suggested this one so Kyle isn't just shouting himself out for fun, but obviously it's been a big pivot going from bulking, growing, getting into powerlifting to running to getting back to putting on muscle. And it is quite an adjustment. And even now this bench press competition, like I think it's really good to show like things don't need to be absolute. You can try different sports, different types of training, and your goal should always be flexible and adjusting. But that concept that you always want to be getting better and improving. And even right now, as he works to have his most muscle ever, he said, "Hey, I think I actually have the most muscle I ever had." And I said, "I don't know. He might. I don't know, but he can make that happen 110% if he wants to." So I think it's just a great example about how periods of time change. And also at the same time, I mentioned it before, Kyle's a good example because when he's bigger and bulkier, people always say to me, "Man, that guy's jacked, he's huge." But he doesn't always enjoy that as much because it will come with being a little less lean. And then sometimes too, when you're lean, people say, "Oh, you're so shredded." Like it's very hard to please everyone. So I think having a really great plan, buying into it, seeing it through. He has his rate of gain right now. There's barriers that have popped up and will continue to pop up, but it's navigating that and sticking to the plan and ultimately working harder and harder towards come to that outcome. And that's what our coaching is all about. Is it's flexible in that sense where your goals are going to change week to week. And you say, "Hey, my sister's over at my house with 4 of her kids. I'm not used to living with kids. I'm a bachelor. I'm by myself. Like, what advice do you have for me?" Or, "Hey, what can I do with this gym?" Or, "My gym got these 3 machines. Can we work that in?" Or, "I'm tired of bodybuilding. I want to start strength training." These are things we love, and that's what really separates us. Is we've mentioned before how we're customized and we care. A lot of programs, they'll give you a few things and they'll piece out. They'll talk to you once a month, or you'll talk to someone's like assistant or something like that. But we've worked really hard to maintain the integrity and customized nature of our coaching. So we do a weekly video check-in. We have unlimited text interaction. Even today, I was just auditing all of my clients, making sure everyone's up to date on what they need, how I can support them. Like having someone on your side is so important because these goals do change. It's never a linear journey. You have your highs and your lows. And I think this is a great example of it. And on the Instagram, there's a photo of him when he was skinnier and running. It's not that he wasn't working hard, but it's his muscle gain journey. So it's fun seeing these different phases is what I'm getting at, and having support through that is everything.
I think what a lot of people don't realize is just it's a never-ending journey. I think a lot of people will just look at it as like a quick phase they need to go through, a quick, vacation they need to get ready for. And those are the people who just unfortunately are very kind of all over the place. And for me, it's just always been exciting, trying new things, just trying to find ways to be more excited about the journey, having new goals to have set. And it's been an incredible journey. I'm so glad I'm, just behind Josh, I think, in lifting. I may have started just behind him, but even fun fact, we lifted probably in the first year or two of like us both starting, we were actually working out together, even though we didn't have the business or anything. So that was a little fun fact that some people may not know, but it's been an incredible journey. We're just getting started. So that's all I have there.
Onward and upward. Okay, for our second question, this is a fun one since we're talking about Kyle right now. What advice do you have towards staying fit with a newborn?
So it's funny. Josh was saying we would talk about this earlier, like previous week, and I'm fresh to this. Like basically, as you're listening to this, it's about 2 weeks now. We're recording about 1.5 weeks in, and my first answer was just like, I don't know yet. Like I have no idea, and that was just me being honest because I'm like, there's I've had to miss a few workouts. The first week I was sick, so I definitely I could have got in there a bit more, but it wasn't it. Like I had one of the worst workouts ever. They always say there's you never regret a workout, but there was one that I was like, I don't know about this one. But anyway, so my biggest thing, and I have something written down here, and this is for my YouTube video. I have that went out last week, and it's just about why you're not seeing change. But there's a tip I have, and it says reduce friction towards good habits. So what I mean by this is when you are busier, when you have more going on, when you maybe have less sleep, when priorities change, like you want to try to figure out how you can set yourself up for those habits as best as possible. So for example, I realized there was a few days I was in the hospital for a little bit. I had visitors all day. I didn't even remember to eat, and I didn't hit my protein, and it kind of killed me because I'm like, I have these big goals and I'm not achieving them right now. So I went online, I ordered my Quest chips from Amazon, I made sure my meal preps were good to go, and then I started to stock up on those things, my Fairlife shakes from Costco. So I just try to get ahead of it so I don't miss twice, because I'm like, this will happen again. There will be trickier situations. There will be times where, I'm maybe aren't able to do as best as I can. So how can I make it as easy as possible to succeed? So nutritionally, that's obviously one big thing, is just like planning ahead. And it's funny because my tips for, I think, anything, they kind of go hand in hand, whether you're busy with work, whether you have a sickness, whether you have a baby, whether you have, just like anything going on. It's about being proactive. It's about planning ahead. It's about talking to those people around you for support and kind of leaning into that as well. And for me, it's a priority. So like nothing really will change. And I think it's like also being able to accept, hey, there will be times where you're sleeping a little bit less. No problem. We're going to keep moving forward. And I think that comes with discipline. So for me, I definitely have an advantage where like no matter what would happen, I would still always push through and still show up. And so that's kind of my mindset towards anything, is just like do it anyways. I know last week we were talking about that, but that's kind of my biggest tip. I'm sure I'll have more along the way as I kind of do progress here. But the other thing is just being clear, like working out makes me feel good. I'm able to be the best version of myself. My partner knows that. It's going to be great for the baby as I start to become, more of a dad along the way, and, things change. And I think sometimes people have a hard time with that. Like I can very confidently say, I will be the best version of myself. I'm going to feel so much better. And for me to just be able to take care of myself, I do really genuinely feel like I can take care of everyone around me. I can take care of my clients. I can build everything, and a lot of people miss out on that. So that some of them look at themselves as selfish or this and that, but I truly believe it's one of the most important things, and I'll never stop it.
Yeah, that's incredibly well said. And even for me with a 2-year-old and a 6, almost 7-month-year-old, having been through this a lot, it's funny, the second time compared to the first, I think it's always hard the first time you do anything because it's something you're not prepared for. And even I was saying to Kyle, like you could tell people like, oh, it's tough at first and there's this and that, and everyone's experience is so incredibly different. I think it's just having the attitude of how can I be positive and how can I solve it. And you can get super in the weeds with these things, but my biggest advice is always like having a future forward approach. And the second time around, I think we were really, really wise about that. So even we posted my wife's transformation. So during the pregnancy, I was like, let's be super on top of our lifting. Let's really train smart. Really made a goal to eat as healthy as we can, as much healthy food as we could. And even that transition out, we're like, you'll recover faster, especially in terms of a C-section. If you're eating the best food, you're getting active, you're moving. And with the baby, like Kyle said too, really, I think communicating what everyone needs is so important. And it's really easy to feel like you need to kind of just be holed up for weeks and weeks. And once again, to a degree, you do need to be, because it's quite a lot. But I think being within reason, utilizing gaps, if one person's sleeping, maybe the other person's doing something, and taking turns and communicating is incredibly well said. But like Kyle had mentioned, like accepting that not everything's going to be perfect. You're going to miss some gym. The nutrition's going to be bad. Your sleep will suck a bit. But like anything else, it's a phase you'll push through. And it was funny when I first had my baby, like a lot of my clients said, oh, I missed that time. It was so cute and easy. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And then it's funny when you have a toddler, you kind of realize like, oh, okay, now I see it's not as bad as maybe I thought it was. And like a toddler is a different beast. 202 is a different beast, but like everyone's different. There's people out there I see coming to the gym by themselves with 6 kids, just crushing it. I'm like, wow, I admire you. The other day when I picked up my son, there was a lady and she was holding her twins, telling her other 3-year-old to open the door for her and do all these things. I'm like, that is insane. Like that's really impressive. But I think like anything else, you can either have these obstacles be too big where you give up, or you can say, how can I be my best version throughout this? And even as Kyle said, setting that example of maintaining a good mindset for himself, for everyone he's around, so he can be healthy and showcase that as well. Like taking care of yourself during this time is so important for everyone involved, because there's so much going on. And I think it's real easy just to say I'm just everything's towards this baby, but ultimately down the line, like 10 years later, you don't want to be a shell of where you were, not be able to run or jump with them, or be in a really unhealthy place. So I think like having these understandings is so good, and that was a great response.
Yeah, I think like no matter what it is, if you can sit down and just be like, how can I make this work? Like this does mean something to me. You will find a way. And Josh's quote last week was something along the lines of that. If it means something to you, you'll find a way to make it work. And even if I see a busy day, or if it's just like obviously the sleep was not as great, or I have some different appointments or things going on, I'm able to sit down in front of my calendar. I'm able to brainstorm and be like, okay, here's what's going to work. Here's what's not going to work. And I think a lot of people kind of stray away from that because they get overwhelmed a lot. And it's just kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to think about it anyways. But I guess for me, obviously, it's a little bit been easier as we've built a business. We've had lots of problems come up. There's always ups and downs. And that's basically what we've done for the last 10 years is kind of put out fires and try new things and figure it out. So I would really encourage anyone, like no matter, and this isn't advice for just like managing newborn, but like when you're going through something, just like sit down for a few seconds, like chill out, maybe meditate for a minute or two, and just think like, how can I make this work? Like if there's a will, there's a way. So yeah, I'm going to figure it out along the way and maybe share some few tips, but I'll never have it as hard as others. Like I'll never be able to say, hey, I'm an expert, but like it's just my journey and I like to document. So yeah, that's my answer there.
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's even hard talking about these things because immediately I know someone will say, well, this is easy for the men to say, or like, and once again, I will never understand the birthing process. The amount of respect, like so much goes into it. But I think like if you can either have like a goal, like I'll find a way through it approach, or you can have a mindset of like, oh, this person doesn't understand because I have 3 kids, or my kid was preemie, or like, once again, I don't necessarily think that's the most beneficial behavior. And I think we need to work with what we're given. We have to enjoy the blessings that we're given. And even I've always like, I remember people used to always say to me, oh, enjoy being fit now, wait till you have kids. And that always bugged me. And I was like, I've refused. So like when I had my first son, like I buckled in more than ever. And I've tried to double down that much more because I'm like, I'll find a way to make it happen. And to me, like when I see other parents who have done that, like I find it so inspiring. And there's other people I'll look up to and I'll say, this person's killing it. Like they're finding solutions, and you can learn and grow from them. And I think when you have that more of empowerment attitude, instead of like putting other people down for being in different situations or not understanding your situation. So I know this can get super in the weeds, but ultimately like just make that effort to be a little bit better and keep pushing for it.
Yeah, very well said.
All right, our final question is, I'm wanting to make progress specifically for fat loss, but not wanting to count calories. Every time I've tried, I can't seem to stick to it. Any tips you'd recommend with navigating this?
Yeah, it's a good question, but it is tough. Like it 100% is possible. Just like if you're looking to lose weight and not do any cardio, you can do it. Cardio will make it a lot easier as you start to burn more calories. That's definitely a known. And similar here, you 100% can lose fat. You can make progress without downloading any of the apps. Is it as optimal? I would 100% say not. I look at these apps as it's just more awareness and it's more accountability, as I was talking about previously. And for me, it's a no-brainer because like I said recently, I said it's basically a free app to just say, hey, Kyle, you got to stick to it. Hey, here's where you're going wrong. It gives you immediate feedback when you look at the numbers. To me, it's fantastic. And aside from an eating disorder, which is another story for another day, I would say like anybody can benefit from it. And if you can't stay consistent with these, the specific tracking tool, I would just ask like, why is that? You might need to, like, even myself, actually, fun fact, I haven't shared this. When I started to try to use my MyFitnessPal for a while, I would never get past breakfast. I would always just forget. I would start off with great intentions. I would log everything breakfast wise. And then the rest of the day would get ahead of me and I would just always forget. So I really do think there's a lot of great ways to still navigate this. There's preset meals that you can have. Josh does great at having those specific meals. If you have the same thing consistently, you just press a button and it takes 2 seconds. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize how easy it actually is. It takes literally 2 to 3 minutes per day. You have preset meals. You can set reminders to help you build up the habit. So I want to give you a bunch of tips to say, hey, here's how you do it. But I do believe that it is necessary and it helps 100% speed up the process. Now, if you decide to just eat high protein, eat very healthy, cook at home, and eat like most like whole foods, there is a chance you can definitely still do great. But it gets so tricky because then the weekend comes and you say, well, I'm not going to keep. You go overboard. Like it gets so challenging. So I would say like 90+% of people will benefit from taking that time. You can do it, but that's just my honest answer. And that's what I would say to anybody if you're in front of me and you say, hey, it's too hard. Like I would say, let's find a way to make it work.
Yeah, make a habit of it too. Like this is one of those things where by doing it, you'll make your life easier. It's just hard, like a shot in the dark. And I love the budget example. You could never look at your accounts, never know how much money you have and be totally fine. And someone who could do this a lot easier is someone who makes like, let's say make $1 million a day. You're going to be able to be pretty carefree and probably be okay. But as you know, even these people that make all this money end up usually going bankrupt because there's no control, there's no awareness of it. And just the same, if you're making $1 a day and you go out and you buy something that's extraordinarily expensive, it's going to kind of cripple you. And unfortunately, with diet tracking, most people don't have the ability to have that control. They'll kind of defer to making bigger purchases, if you will. And without being able to identify that and kind of be aware of your budget and where you're at, it's very hard to actually see progression. We're going to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. We're going to be like, oh, I hardly ate today. And you're going to forget about the 4 snacks you had or the 600 calorie Starbucks drink. So I just think doing these things where, yes, it takes 2 to 3 minutes of my day, but in net makes nutrition way easier for me. It keeps me on track. It saves me from having periods of time where I'm eating significantly above my calories and I start to normalize that and then I put on a lot of weight. So you can circumvent all this by just building that habit. And like Kyle said too, a lot of people do struggle past breakfast. And even for me, that's why I have a notification on my phone. I was telling one of my clients about this today at 7 p.m. It just says log food. And it's great just to be like, okay, I got to make sure everything's in there. Theoretically, if you're logging as best as you could, you'd be pre-logging, but just having different checks to give yourself that metric of accountability, it's going to make losing fat so much easier. And it's one of those things where perhaps you say you try, but you can't stick to it, but that's because you haven't really made it a priority. If I said, if you don't track your food all day, you're going to lose your house and your car, you would do it. You'd find a way. And I think you just need to really make your goals that much more serious to you and stick to them.
Yeah, and I will say, like, it gets easier. So for a lot of people, that first week, the first 2 weeks, like any habit that you learn will be challenging. But when you realize that you can have those preset meals, you can, even myself, like, it gets so, like, you eat mostly the same stuff. And obviously there will be challenges if you do have restaurants. That's another story for another day. We'll talk about that on another podcast. But yeah, it doesn't have to be that hard. Don't overthink it. And another thing is just realize that there will always be margin for error. There will always be little things that you will put in there and it won't be accurate. So I know a lot of times people won't do it because they get worried about that. They're not sure about the number. So I've decided, you know what, even if it's not perfect and I'm guesstimating and, just kind of trying to put something in there, at least it'll be accurate to itself and it'll still be somewhat reasonable. So yeah, that's all I have for that question.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for tuning in with us today. We really do hope you enjoyed the episode. Once again, share your wrap, tag us. We'd love to see that. We want to see who our biggest fan is and give you a reward. Even if you're not our biggest fan, we'd love to see just some of the stats and give you a thank you. So be sure to throw that up. Our Instagram is @ColossusFit. Once again, COLOSSUSFIT. You're missing out if you're not following us there, and we'd love to connect with you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Peace out.